Hello, fellow songwriters, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of the How Songs Are Made podcast, where we talk to notable artists about their songwriting process. I'm your host, Trey Xavier, and today I'm going to be talking to my good buddy, Cole ROLLAND, about how he writes songs. Today's episode is brought to you by my songwriting course, which is called Complete Rock and Metal Songwriting. It's 15 hours of everything that I know about writing songs. Everything from writing riffs and transitions to melodies, harmonies, drum parts, vocals, lyrics, and more. You can find out more about that at the link in the description or at howsongsaremade.com. Also, just a quick note that after this stream, the video is going to become private and the video is going to live on the How Songs Are Made YouTube channel. Not this one. And this is also going to be the last episode that's streamed here on the Trey Xavier channel. All the future streams are going to be on the new podcast channel. So if you want to see those when they happen, go and subscribe over there so that you can get notified when those happen. This episode and all past episodes can be heard as audio podcasts everywhere that podcasts are hosted, or you can find them at howsongsaremadepodcast.com. And now, his new single and music video, Echo, is out now everywhere. Please welcome my guest, Cole ROLLAND.
Dude, you didn't stutter or or...
I can't believe it.
That was unbelievably impressive.
Thank you. I was reading off of a card, as you could tell, but...
I literally didn't even notice. You should have lied.
But I thank you. I am also impressed with myself. Even though I always read it off of a card, I still usually botch it somewhere in there. So I don't know if it's just because you're here in real life.
Dude, well-oiled machine.
But thank you.
That was flawless.
Oiled is how we like it here on the podcast. So it's great to see you.
Out of all the things you could have said to make it weird, you nailed it.
Oh, yeah, that's just the beginning.
Let's go.
So this is also the first one I've done in this room in person. I've done it in the other studio.
Oiled?
We've got getting oiled. Not just streaming, but oiled stream. I mean, you want the as little friction as possible when you're streaming. So
Absolutely.
Oil is the jam. So this is going great so far. Man, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw you IRL. Was it also the first time that we met at the OE thing, or have I seen you since then?
If we have, it could have been just a blur at like NAMM or something following that, but that's the time that we definitely have like hung out for the longest period of time.
Yeah. I like when I've got somebody on to talk about songwriting that I've actually kind of written a song with. It wasn't like quite that exactly, but we were on the same piece of original music and we both added something to it. So that's at least a place to start.
Off the top of your head, can you remember anything about how the song goes?
Yes, but only because I have watched it a couple times since then. But I am currently drawing a blank. So it was pretty good too. But now my brain just shut down.
Dude, it's on the tip of your tongue.
Must have been a great one. It was
dude, real earworm.
I remember the music video so clearly, us walking around like mad dogging everyone, but it was fun to do regardless.
What year would have that would have been 2018, 2017? It's super long time ago.
Holy
yeah, I swear it was either that. Yeah, and it was
Wow, it doesn't feel that long ago.
Well, I feel like COVID was just like a giant weird like time warp for everything. Because
yes.
It feels like those couple of years were just a write-off.
They don't count.
No, they don't. I'm extending my mid-20s into my 30s because of COVID.
That's a good way to do it. I'm gonna have to go to the next decade for that one as well. It's fine. We're everybody gets a mulligan of 2 years.
Dude,
even though it aged us more, we are less old.
No, dude, I'm as youthful as I've ever been.
It's true. Well, you look like you're 15.
Thank you.
So,
wait, never mind. Any joke I have to add to that is just weird as hell.
And but whatever. We both look great is the point, and we're having a wonderful time. So But what we're here today to talk about is not doing the time warp, but songwriting. And I've got so many good questions for you. But mainly what we talk about here, really, there's just the one question. And then everything else is some kind of a follow-up question to that. And that question is, what is your songwriting process usually like, and was it any different for your new single and anything that you've written surrounding that, which is called Echo?
Yeah.
So give us the lowdown about how it came about, the inception to completion.
That's a great question, because I feel like it's changed so much over the years. Even
Sorry, I'm just gonna get it out of your face.
How's that better?
Much better.
Cool. So when we first met, I hadn't added like lead vocals, at least from my position, to any of my music at all. That's still, I would say, in the grand scheme of my career, it's a very new installment. It's been the last 3 original singles that's been part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it always used to be me creating songs to shop out for top line to other people. And that's still a great approach. I will still absolutely do that. And I do like to also write top line, but it's really nice to be able to conceptualize an entire idea now, whether it's like starting with piano and vocals or starting with acoustic guitar and vocals, making sure that the song really holds up in its rawest state before I dive down the production rabbit hole. And that way I know I like it to begin with. So when it came to Echo, I went in with a topic I knew I wanted to write about.
Sorry, keep going. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So when it came to Echo, I knew that I had a topic I wanted to write about, and I knew that I wanted it to be my heaviest original to date. Heavy is such a relative term, depending on what people are into, and I don't want to over promise and under deliver. But for me, it's definitely my heaviest original song.
That's one of those things that every press release from a new band, like from a band about their new
it's our heaviest song yet.
It's our heaviest and most mature work to date. It both references our older material, but it's also, but that doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, definitely a relative term, and I was really nervous because I went on Nick Nocturnal's podcast and talked about this, and I was like, oh, dude, if I say that on here, I might get completely crapped on. So we'll see. But it ended up going over really well, and to get that stamp of approval from his audience was really cool.
Well, that's good.
So yeah,
I mean, yeah, because many things pale in comparison to what he considers to be heavy.
I know.
A lot of terrifying deathcore stuff, which is awesome.
That boy. He's so funny.
He's very funny, cool dude. But yours is definitely heavy compared to what you've put out. I went back through your catalog of original stuff, and there's some that's like maybe pop punk-esque, kind of heavy, and some like more like rock. And this one definitely went a bit further than that. So, what was there something that pushed you to go to that level of heaviness instead of like the other way or more poppy or something like that?
I think if I had to, my impulse response to that is I just wanted to see if I could do it. And that's kind of been like my motto for a lot of stuff. Anytime I'm going to try something that is quote unquote like career evolutionary at all, and it's something a little bit out of my comfort zone, I just tell myself like, hey, let's just see if we can pull this off and see what happens. And vocally, I knew with the first 2 singles when I did Ignite and did Little Lies, like you said, those are much more kind of like poppier, pop punk type genre. But then when it comes to Echo, I started to gain a lot more confidence with the vocal thing, and just I went for it. It's the first time I've ever screamed in an original song. First time I've really went for like the grittier, edgier vocals. We did the most vocal layers we've ever done, and really created the whole, the whole wall and atmosphere with that, which I'm so much more used to doing with guitars. So
yeah. So you are kind of known for, obviously on YouTube, for doing covers, guitar covers of popular songs, of all kinds of different stuff, but also sort of reinterpreted or like from scratch versions of stuff as well that you've done with a lot of guests. You did Every Time We Touch
One of my favorite covers we've ever done.
I mean, that's one of my favorite songs. Period.
Me too.
Definitely the best EDM song I think ever. Anyway, great shit. I love it. Electric Callboy just did a cover of it.
I gotta listen to that.
Wild shit. Anyway, so you've learned hundreds and hundreds of songs at this point to do these covers, and of course, to do that, you have to sort of break it down and figure out how a song ticks. And has that informed how you write songs? Like, what have you taken from that experience?
Everything and anything that you can from covering songs, especially when it went from, it's like, and I still do this at times, is like play a guitar cover or write a guitar arrangement over the master recording, but doing full productions and recreating things from the ground up and really adding your own kind of like production spin to it, that is where I learned exponentially, because you're listening to the song that you're working on, and you're listening for all the tiny little like production things, especially with pop music. There's so many tiny like ear candy things that are coming up, even for like a couple bars at a time. There's so many little things to pay attention to, and I felt like that helped shape my production style and shape the way that I approach even producing like rock and pop punk tracks now. So I have like a little bit of that like pop production flair that I'm applying to those songs, and I think it really elevates it and gives it a unique sound.
I think people assume that it's all drastically different stuff, that things that the skills aren't transferable or the musical ideas are so wildly different that it wouldn't work. But I always tell people, like, there's only 12 notes. We all get the same 12 notes, and pop and metal and rock, EDM, it's all basically the same, and you can learn something from everything. So how did you but for Echo, how did you start? What was the first thing that you came up with for that song, and where did it come from?
With Echo, we started with a riff, and I think that's because I came in, like I mentioned earlier, we came into the session, I had an idea of what I wanted to write about lyrically, topic-wise, and then I knew I wanted it to be a heavier track, so I was like, cool, I know guitar riffs. That's very much in my wheelhouse. Let's start with that. And typically, if we're coming in and I don't have like a chord progression to go off of or anything really solid, I'll just have the producer, while they're kind of building the session, maybe playing around with like splice samples, things like that to spark an idea. I'll just start messing around with riffs and stuff until I see a head turn, or until I see someone go like, oh, that's cool. And then I'm like, sweet, let's build off of that. Let's make it more solid, layer it up a little bit, and then start to progress into, which chords we're going to work with, and then go with melody from there.
So you're working with a producer then most of the time when you're writing? Or
this is actually the first time I worked with a new producer, Jonathan DeLisi, and then I worked with a guy named Zach Jones, who's actually based in LA, for Little Lies. And other than that, it's been pretty much just me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so these are new installments.
So that's what was it like working with a producer instead of working by yourself? Like what are the benefits? How did you feel about it as it was happening?
One of my favorite things I always like to think about when I bring on someone or hire somebody externally is I feel like, in a weird way, like I'm going to school every time I do it, because you get to see other people's workflow. You get to bounce ideas off of someone who thinks differently than you. And
sorry,
are you signaling for me to scoot in?
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just trying to figure out the
your knees touch.
I was
my
like,
knees.
oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Well, it's a good thing we're well oiled. We're working with minimal space in here, and it looks fine from the desk up, but like we got battling knees over here, and I was like, realizing that I'm anyway.
Yeah,
I was like twisting my neck around, and I was
hairs
like,
with your homie. It's one of the most like uncomfortable feelings. No, I'm kidding.
Anyway, sorry. Please continue.
What was I saying? Like, I feel like I'm kind of going to school when I hire a producers like that, or someone that specializes in a certain area of the game, and I get to like watch their workflow, see how they approach songs, see how maybe they bring an idea from point A to point B, and I always learn something. I always have like a new approach. For example, Alex Pearson he's in a band called Hands Like Houses, if you've heard of them before, and I wrote with him yesterday, and the way he approached our session was he was very heavy into pulling samples from Splice and just layering those up and just like fucking them up and making them sound totally different than they do out of the box. And that sparked a lot of ideas for the vibe that we wanted to go with the song. That made me think of a topic quite quickly, being able to just kind of word vomit into Apple Notes or something like that and get lyrics to start forming. And we got a whole song done in a day. And that felt very efficient. And typically that's how I like to work with those.
So for Echo, did you go in with any idea of what you wanted the song to be about, or are you coming up with that on this? Did you have any kind of lyrics pre-written, or did it all come out in the session working with the producer?
All came out in the session. So with Echo, we got a good chunk. I'd say 70% of the idea was complete by the time the first session was done. And thankfully, Jonathan lives in Nashville as well, so I was able to go, like super close to me. So I would go home, I would cut some more vocals, maybe like refine some ideas. And Echo was 3 total sessions together, and then a lot of homework for me. So I went in knowing what I wanted to write about, and it was me coming off of the back of a huge Black Mirror binge, which is like one of my favorite shows of all time. I probably recommend it a little too much to people that I know won't like it, but I just like I just love the show. It's phenomenal. I love the way that it makes you think. It's probably not a show that you should like binge in high amounts because it can give you a little bit of that existential crisis.
I can only watch one at a time. It's not a show that I like enjoy. It's one of those ones that I feel like I have to watch because it's important. Like they're saying important things. Usually when I watch TV, it's to relax, and that does the opposite. So I got to be in a particular mood, but oh man.
Yeah.
Because every time you're done, you go like, ah!
Oh yeah, there's some heavy hitters in that. And with Echo, like I said, I was kind of coming off the back of a little bit of a Black Mirror binge, and I got thinking about how this is a bit of like could be a massive deep dive topic, but I'm a little bit passionate about the idea of how our phones can kind of be like as efficient as they are. They're a huge distraction device. Obviously, that's been talked to death, but they're a bit of a device that kind of shows you what you want to see, because it's kind of always it's a bit of that like attention economy concept where it's always trying to draw people in with whatever it is, and you can go online and essentially through a Google search validate like any idea that's in your head. It'll always show you what you want to see, and I'm like, that's kind of dangerous, because it's good to be challenged in the way you think. It's good to be challenged in the way that you maybe believe things. So that's what Echo was about, was getting caught in that kind of chamber of thinking the same way, always just defaulting to that all the time. And I know it's a bit of a big brain topic, but we put it in a song.
Yeah. So when you're, this one. So when you're developing it after those initial sessions and those ideas, like, what's the order that you approach it generally? Like, obviously you've got a riff now. You guys are working on stuff, like the producers throwing in samples and all this. Are you coming up with the vocal parts as you go, or do you wait until the song is sort of structured out to start writing melodies and all that?
I like to. So Echo is a bit different than how I've traditionally approached stuff. Like Little Lies and Ignite, we had our chord progression and a strong chorus before we started to build around it. So it was chorus first, chorus rips, cool. We know it's a good idea. So with Echo, it was different because we had a riff we liked and I had a topic I really liked. So then from there, we went with chords, layered that up a little bit just to get the idea a little more solid. And then before we deep dove into verses or layering up production or anything that's like all the fancy bells and whistles, we made sure that we liked the chorus, chord progression, and the melody. So that was the next kind of big thing to check off the box. And then after that, we were able to dive into the verses and kind of create a vibe for that.
Yeah. Have you studied composition or songwriting, music theory, any of that kind of stuff in a more formal way at all, or are you completely self-taught?
I've never done it in a formal way, like going to school for it or anything, but I've done it in the most informal ways by, I would say, like observing pros and like just watching how they work, watching how they approach things, watching how they interact with clients and different bands. I'm a really, really big fan of those Nail the Mix series.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of those. That is a like hell of an education for dirt cheap. And I did 2 of them, and I made sure it's like you clear your schedule for the whole day, sit down and like actually do this, and there's no way you won't learn something. Like it's so valuable. So
it's kind of like a mini internship.
It really is.
Because like how else do you get in the room with somebody like that sitting right there, you know? Yeah. That's super fun. And then also getting the tracks to be able to mess around with and actually see what they're working with.
Oh yeah. Especially if you're using the same DAW. The first one I did was one of the ones that Kyle Black did for State Champs, because I was working on like a pop punk song at the time, and I was like, cool, this will be like right up my alley for the sound I want to go for. Really, really helpful, but he was using Pro Tools and I work in Logic, so I had to do a lot of kind of, translating between the two. But I did another one after, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was all in Logic. I learned so much about like groups and like sends and like all this stuff, parallel compression, like all these like hyper nerd things that just like really elevate the mix as a total. And I would not ever call myself a mix engineer. There's people I know that can mix circles around me, but it helps me in an environment to like communicate with someone maybe that I've hired to do something. I can like actually, I know the terminology, I know how to, convey my ideas a lot better now.
Yeah, and these days most people are writing inside of a DAW. So being able to be some version of an engineer and understand signal flow and side chaining and whatever else just helps you to be more creative in the moment and get the sound that you're going for. It's not like you don't have to be the final mix engineer on the track. You don't have to do everything. A lot of people think they got to do everything, but yeah, helps a lot.
That was my mentality for a long time, and like still is sometimes. When it's a project that I'm like really, really particular about, sure, like I'll do the vast majority of it. But with some of these original songs, and I want it to be really special, and I want to like collaborate with a producer, like another writer on it or something, I'm like more than happy to bring in other people now.
Yeah. So, like you said, you kind of just recently started singing on your own material, and what was the push for that? Like, what made you go, I want it to be me? After working with a lot of really great singers, it's probably a little intimidating to start being like,
no, they're all way better than me. I think I got a little bit, I'm trying to think of like a good word for this. I felt like I was getting like a little too pigeonholed for my own liking about like being the guitar guy, when I know all along that I've like been like full producing all my tracks, and like I had done a bunch of original stuff at that point, but my biggest stuff, most prominent, had always been guitar covers, like my cover Through the Fire and Flames or whatever's like really popped off on YouTube. So I really wanted to show people that I'm always willing to like continually push and continually take risks and do it in a big way, and do it in a way that like, might actually be inspiring to people that are watching, and they're like, oh man, like you were you've come really, really far in this area of your career, and you're still willing to push boundaries. That's something about Bring Me the Horizon that always like really like consistently impresses me. That same principle where it's like, man, these guys are at the top, and they continue to take these scary ass risks, and it's often met with really great feedback and probably feels really rewarding. And it did for me too. When Ignite came out, probably one of my favorite releases I've ever done, not because it's the best song I've ever written or the best performing video I've ever done, but it was something that was super scary and felt like a natural evolution to my brand. So
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's right there in the name of the band. Bring me the horizon. It's not like bring me some Cheetos. Like they could just sit back on their laurels and do nothing, but they're like always going for the next thing. And like it's funny going back and listening to their early stuff.
I love it.
And then listening to the new stuff. Like for me, the new stuff is way better, but it's more up my alley. But just the fact that they were kind of like, all right, we did that. What's next?
They're an amazing band.
Yeah.
So good. And
taking scary risks, especially when the stakes are, considerably higher. Like, you've put out a lot of stuff that's gotten a lot of attention, streams, views, feedback, and it would be easy for you to just keep putting out covers of stuff that's that people kind of know you for.
They feel safe though. Those feel like safe decisions to me.
Exactly, very safe. But like you've already done that, and I'm sure you'll keep doing it. But this is where artistic growth happens, right? Like taking those huge risks. So, how do you know which songs that you're working on are the one that you're gonna use to take that risk? You know what I mean? Like I imagine, written a lot more than just the songs that you've put out. What was it about these singles that you were like, all right, this is the one that's worth going out on a limb for?
Such a good question, man. Because like I think all of
good.
us.
That's the only one that's the last one that I've got. That's good. All the rest are garbage.
Okay, cool. So it's all downhill from here, guys. You heard it here first. I think what's always something that I look for is how, you know what? I kind of have like an inner circle of people that I like to just kind of get their unbiased reaction on stuff from. And it's not, this is one of many things that kind of influences the decision, but it's definitely one that's like important to me. Is I like to just kind of gauge an unbiased reaction, set zero expectations for it, and then just, I don't know, like if I hear my girlfriend humming it later, and I'm like, oh, that's a good melody, cool, maybe I should roll with that. Or maybe it makes me like feel a certain type of way. Like I know a lot of us can relate to the idea of having just a hard drive full of stuff that's never going to see the light of day. I really try my absolute best to finish ideas and just like start a song, finish it, cool. Am I going to release it? Yes or no? Next. I just keep them on that conveyor belt, and it just keeps the songwriting muscles fresh and growing all the time. It's, again, one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it. I feel like it's something you got to exercise all the time. So Ignite felt really special because that was the first one I did like front to back on Twitch, and the audience felt very like engaged and invested in it. And by the time it came out, it was this whole like, holy shit, like we watched this thing like grow and evolve. And I know you've done a bunch of stuff like that on live streams too, and it's really sick to get that feedback from people that have been a part of the whole process for it. So
there's a little bit of urgency that comes out of doing it in front of people.
You're so accountable.
It's super accountable. And you wouldn't think like maybe that it would be good because you're like, oh, this is like kind of my private process, and like everything being scrutinized by everyone that's watching. But 98% of the time, they're just so stoked to watch it, and they very encouraging, and they'll generally be honest with you if it's not working, or something, or I've gotten some really solidly good feedback from my audience.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
So yeah, and okay, so you streamed the entire process of writing this song. Are they still up there as VODs on your Twitch? Do you know?
They are unlisted on YouTube for I used to post those like in the Discord server.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just asking because it would be pretty sick if after we're talking about this, somebody could go and literally watch your whole process. But no matter what, go and subscribe to Cole on Twitch so that they can see future processes.
Yeah, there's tons of VODs of like my most recent projects on there that are like still on Twitch. I think it's like a 30-day window they stay up. Is that what it is?
Okay, I'm not sure. I whatever the default settings are for that are the ones that I've got on there. So
sweet.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So Right, we're talking about how you decide.
Which ones are going to make the cut?
Yeah, I mean, it's always. I'm sure there's a lot of different factors, but just I liked hearing that you've got like a little circle of people who you trust, and you're asking them about it. Do you ever consult like your manager or like somebody who'll be like, this is the chomping on a big cigar. Yeah, this is the one that's going to make you a millionaire, kid. Or whatever.
My manager is way too British to ever sound like that.
Oh, okay. This is the one that's going to make you a millionaire, son.
Nah, dude, no, he's posh British. He's so proper.
I'm doing a bad impression of a person I've never met.
Yeah,
right,
dude,
Cole,
come on, man.
We're going to have a little chat about which one's going to make the best single.
There we go.
Sorry,
we're getting better. We're getting closer now.
I hope to meet him soon.
His name is Rich, and he's awesome. And he's definitely part of my inner circle that I consult on stuff like that. Echo was he's never said it, but when we always do like a car test after like our weekly meetings and stuff, and I'll show him what I've been working on. And when I showed him Echo, that's when he was like, dude, this is the one. Like, this is super sick. And I'm like, that's great feedback. Whereas like I showed other friends Little Lies, and they're like, dude, this is my favorite song you've ever done. And I don't know, different strokes for everyone, man. Like it's weird. I've always had a bit of like genre ADD with stuff. It's just like you can probably tell by listening to different eras of my music. You can tell, oh, like Cole's really into this band right now, or he's always like listen to this type of music. Oh, he's in an EDM phase again. Sick. Like Chad 2.0 is back. But yeah, like I don't know. That's always kept it fresh and interesting for me, and I've always loved to just finish and get projects out as they're done. And it's always cool to look back on how far it's come, and just getting in the habit of finishing stuff has been kind of like my secret formula. So.
And that way you're not, sitting on it forever. It's sort of the YouTube format. Like you finish a video, you get it out, you get it up and get it done. You can do it the same day or the next day or whatever. So
no, we're not all psychos like you, Trey.
Oh no, it takes me way too long to finish videos and put them out. The same kind of basic mindset of like, you're done, it's good, let's get it going. You're saying genre ADD, you like oh, I had a really good one, and it slipped right out of my brain. No, just say the exact same thing you said a minute ago, and then it'll come back.
I can't do that.
I'm just kidding. Don't do that. So, right. Your posh British manager liked it. Yeah, you got... Okay, so I guess the main question is, like, you've got something out that you like. Maybe it's a bit different from. I mean, it's like you said, heavier, noticeably different from
Echo's
things
different for sure
that you've put out in the past. It has a little bit more of an active rock vibe rather than like kind of a pop punk thing. I think that's what I got out of it, anyways. And it slaps. You put together a crazy looking music video for it. Somebody spent some time in Unreal Engine for that one.
Yes, he did.
I just downloaded that like a week ago, and I saw the rest of my life flash before my eyes. The hundreds of hours that could go into that. Looks great.
Thank you.
So then the question is like, are you gonna do more of that same basic thing, or are you gonna just try something else next? Like, how fast does the ADHD move? For me, it's very quickly.
Dude, such a good question. No one's ever asked me, and I'm thrilled to answer. Are you referring to like the format of the video, like how we did the green screen? And
no, I mean musically. Sorry. Like
the next single. So the next one's already ready to go, and I think it's gonna come out end of August or early September.
Okay.
It's called Disappear, and it is much more of like a radio rock vibe. So still like my voice is like still evolving. When you bring singing in like this late into your music career, you're like, I'm literally like finding my sound in front of people with releases. So when I compare my first like covers that I sounded on, it sounded like, oh, Cole's in a huge Simple Plan phase right now. And that now it's much more like, okay, cool. Like you're starting to get the confidence. You're really like going for the notes now. You're not leaning into like certain vowel sounds that are just like comfortable to sing, and
Yeah,
they start to figure that out a lot more. And I think the confidence thing, the more that's built, and just repeating, getting things finished and releasing them, getting feedback, that has helped me hone in on the sound a lot more. I'm still gonna have genre ADD for the rest of my life. It's just who I am, but it keeps it fresh. It keeps it super interesting, and I'm always excited to get feedback from people. It might not be the most traditional and probably not the most like beneficial for growth artist direction to like hop around all the time, but I don't know. It keeps it fun for me. It keeps it sustainable, and it keeps me loving what I do. So
I don't know, man. Madonna did it very effectively.
Yeah, shit, man.
For
We
a very
can't
long
all
time.
be Madonna though.
No, you're doing a great job.
Thanks for comparing me to
being Madonna.
That's
though.
cool.
I mean, so I feel the shit out of a lot of this because I didn't start singing until I was 28. And
How
like,
old are you now? 70?
76. Tomorrow's my birthday. It's not my
dude,
birthday.
happy early birthday.
Both of those are lies. I just turned 39. So I've weirdly now been singing for 10, 11 years. But so much of the first part of it is just figuring out what you sound like naturally, what you want to sound like, what you're even capable of doing, right? Because you're born with the instrument. You can't restring it or tune it, drop tune it, whatever. Like it is what it is.
Tell me the drop pedal doesn't work for vocals. That's news to me.
who's gonna stop you is the question. But you there's a certain amount that you can train to change it. But there's the finding, and that's what it seems like you're talking about, the finding the Cole
Definitely.
sound.
Don't wait till you have 1 million subscribers to sing for the first time. Kids, don't ever do that. It's fucking terrifying.
Well, I mean, luckily you don't suck. You sound really good.
Thanks, man.
So that could have been the worst. That you're like, all right, let's do it. Now it's time of my next evolution as an artist, and you're like, and you're just like tone deaf garbage, and you can't do it. Like that would suck.
There was a point in time it did sound like that. So.
It's it does for everybody, but it's that it doesn't stay there. But it's like I don't know, whatever, like 7 years ago or whatever, I started shaving my head, and it would have been a bummer if I had a really lumpy, awful looking head.
That's true.
You
had a great head.
Thank you. I got very lucky, but many people don't.
Some people win the genetic lottery, bro.
Right now.
Yeah.
It's like, have you said the genetic lottery winner, son of a bitch? Have you ever seen that episode of Seinfeld where he convinces the guy to stop shaving his head, and
not
then
familiar, but...
He's like, I did it. I stopped shaving my head. And he's like, well, where's your hair? He's like, no, I'm bald. I found out that I'm in between when I started doing it and now I went bald. And now I know that I'm bald. Anyway, but
some things are just meant to be.
Some things are just meant to be. But you, right. So your voice sounds great. You started singing. Now you have the ability to write songs that you can sing. Isn't that wonderful? Like,
dude,
I did the same thing. I wrote songs for the singer of my band to sing, and I got tired of like other people singing my songs, and that's why I started doing it. And there's an incredible freedom to it. And I always tell people to, like you said, like start learning now, start trying now, like before you've got a million subscribers.
Sing, learn a little piano. Learn a little acoustic guitar, or electric guitar, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Learn those 3 things, like good enough to be dangerous, and you can hold your own in writing sessions. It is so valuable. Dude, I was saying this to my girlfriend on the phone yesterday, and I was like, man, I've had such a good trip out here this time, and it feels really good to be able to come out here and be able to like show up to writing sessions, whether they're last minute, like come in with no ideas and be able to like actually stand on my own 2 feet and be like, I can contribute to this confidently. I would have never been able to do that 3 or 4 years ago. So it's awesome to have that capability.
Yeah, I think people I hear this all the time. Oh, nobody wants to hear me sing, man. Like, I'm terrible. It's like, you don't have to sing on the final product. Like,
Yep.
Just sing to get some demo ideas down, like to understand melody better, all that sort of thing.
Yep. Got to do the thing.
So I think I remember the question that I was going to ask before. Still relevant. So, how often are you writing music? Do you write every day? Do you have any kind of songwriting habits like that, or is it just catch as catch can?
With everything that I do with the whole kind of brand and how we've tried to expand things like beyond the YouTube realm, and I mean, I do have a small team of people now, thankfully, that I'm working with, but I do wear a lot of hats. So if to answer the question, I try and finish like 2 complete original ideas a month, and that's, I think, pretty reasonable with that on top of kind of like the YouTube stuff and pursuing things outside of just kind of like the YouTube bubble itself, because those are getting me closer to where I want to be in that realm. It's getting me closer to where I want to be in 5 to 7 years from now, and I think that's the goal. It's just getting in the habit of writing on a consistent basis, because like I said earlier, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like it's a muscle. I remember going down such a you know how a lot of times artists nowadays have to balance like the business side of things and the creative side, and they're just 2 opposite sides of your brain. So I struggle a lot with going so far down like one avenue that when you come back to the other side of it, it's like, okay, cool, I need like a minute to kind of like catch my bearings with that. Same thing with guitar playing. If I doing a lot of production and I'm not like playing a lot of hard guitar stuff, it takes me a little while to get back into it and like warm up and stuff again. So good habits are a very important thing.
As obviously also a YouTuber, like we're used to doing everything.
Lots of stuff.
Like we got to be jack of all trades. And for me, that I've kind of got this feeling like I'm capable of doing anything. So then if I want to do something, I just assume that I can.
It's a very good confidence building thing.
Like how many of your videos did you shoot and edit? And like, I mean, like,
I've always loved having videographers. It's just it's a way more like enjoyable experience to kind of like share that with someone. But I've edited all of them except for the originals.
Okay.
Since forever.
Yeah. So you, but still you did a lot
of them,
you know, like, and editing, but exactly, like most musicians for years and years couldn't operate a video camera or editing software. Like it's something you got to do, but so yeah, you're doing all of these different things. Songwriting is one part of it. I mean, 2 a month is great. I don't like, if I'm lucky, I do like very slightly more than that.
Yeah,
but
they don't all make the cut. But like the point is to just like keep getting better at it. Some of my best advice I always give for people, whether they're learning the guitar or taking up singing or anything like that, is what got me to be so much better at my instrument was when I got addicted to like making YouTube videos and stuff. You're recording yourself, you're perfecting it on a routine basis, and it's like the ultimate practice routine, man. It just there's no way you're not going to get better. You're just repeatedly doing it and then like critiquing. Cool, project's out, dude, on to the next one. I'll do something a little more challenging this time, or try and add something to it or whatever, and you just get like 1% better every time.
Yeah, that's the jam. And yeah, those little motivators to keep going, to do it. Like you get a little bit of feedback and you're like, oh shit. And then
the feedback cycle is, I never realized how important that was to me. Yeah, I thrive off of getting like feedback from people, whether it's constructive or generally good or whatever. It helps nudge you in the right direction.
So speaking of the right direction, do you have a larger goal for your original music a goal, Roland, if you will?
A goal, Roland. Too much shit rhymes with my name, man.
That's rough. I'm sorry. I'll try not to. To do long term, like you said, 5-7 years out. Do you think that there will come a time when you are doing entirely or almost entirely original music, and not so much with the covers and all of that? I mean, is that where this is headed, do you think? I mean, nobody can see the future, but
I know, man. I gotta borrow that crystal ball you got. In like terms of medium to long-term goals, I really want to keep exercising the songwriting chops, get into more co-writing sessions that don't even necessarily involve like me releasing stuff under my artist project. That's amazing that I have that as an outlet, and it's always going to exist, and I'm going to continue to nurture that. But I have really enjoyed collaborating with other people, maybe being part of a co-write that has nothing to do with what I'm going to release, but just being involved. And I'd love to get one of those fancy record certifications someday. And I have no idea. It's probably not going to be one of my songs. It's probably going to be for somebody else. And I think that's a pretty realistic goal given the genres that I work in. So I'd love that. I'd love to do some more of the like pop EDM live guest things that I've done in the past. Those are some of my absolute favorite live events that I've ever gotten a chance to be a part of. So those are two things that are both outside of the YouTube channel that I'd love to.
It looked like you were having a fantastic time on that Elenium tour.
I had the time of my life doing that. That was so much fun.
Saw some of those pictures and I was like, oh, wow, okay, hello.
He plays big shows. There's a lot of fire, and there's a lot of places you don't want to stand at certain times. Yeah, he's doing a band tour right now, and me and my friend Nate went and saw it a couple weeks ago, and it was fucking phenomenal, dude. It was so well put together.
That sounds like a hoot. But I guess then, those are, like you said, outside of your YouTube thing. So are you, but within YouTube, are you, like, what do you have a plan that you can tell us about how you're gonna, like, are you gonna keep doing a lot of covers like you've been doing, or is it
the plan for the YouTube channel, which has kind of been one of my mantras for a few years, is I just want to make cool shit. I just want to make cool shit that inspires me. I feel very incredibly fortunate to have a lot of creative freedom, and I've had a lot of repeat viewers that have followed me through many, many different phases of my genre ADD, and I'm super grateful for those people.
Yeah.
EDM phase again. But yeah, like,
I mean, it's almost like a recurring character on a TV show who isn't there all the time. You know, people coming back, and then you're like, oh yeah, like, I remember, and then they're there for a small character arc or story arc, and then they go away.
You miss that guy.
Exactly.
I want to see him again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Hello,
cool.
Newman. Yeah. Sorry, the Seinfeld references. I don't even watch that much Seinfeld. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
I don't know. Today, it's on the brain.
Today's the day I should have watched more Seinfeld so I can keep up. But yeah, definitely going to be a lot more original stuff for sure. My YouTube channel is always, when I think about what we've been able to build on there, I always just think of that's my ultimate portfolio piece. It's my ultimate kind of resume building platform where, you know, if I want to get the attention of a big artist that I want to maybe perform with someday, or an artist that I would love to write with someday or something like that, that's where the covers on YouTube have served an incredibly important purpose.
Yeah.
And allowed me to build an audience where people can come and enjoy my original stuff and get more of an insight into what I do outside of playing the guitar. And then to dilute that even further, Twitch has been the best for like just interacting with fans and getting them even more involved in the process and seeing, you know, just another inside view into everything that's involved in what I do. So yeah, no major changes going on. I just want to make cool shit and share it with people. So
I know this isn't exactly what the podcast is about, but I am super curious about the music video for Echo and how you did it. Give us just a little rundown, because it's super epic and looks high budget is kind of the wrong word, but it's high something.
It feels very polished.
Yeah.
So there's a big like rehearsal studio in Nashville called Soundcheck, and like anyone from like maybe a local band could rehearse there up to like Paramore.
I've been there for events around Summer NAMM.
It is sick. Soundcheck's awesome. Incredible place to go. And they told me that we needed a like decent sized room to shoot green screen for this, and I booked a room that was literally 10 times too big. So we were in this fucking huge room, and like all those rehearsal spaces are so sick because they have like all the boards set up for you. All of the audio is run, like the monitors are like from the ceiling. Like it just sounds incredible in those rooms. They're all totally soundproofed. And then there's a section for your crew or whatever to just like hang out and relax, couches, beverages, whatever. So we had a few extra people come to hang out. We set up a green screen. I had the drummer and the bassist and myself actually in the video, and then we shot everything on stills on tripod on a green screen. And my boy Dustin went in I think he did an Unreal Engine. Could be totally wrong, but he went in.
Unreal or the other one, basically Unity or something. Blender. Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, Blender. I don't know.
Shit.
I've gone this far down the rabbit hole, and I'm scared.
This is why I hire the professionals.
Something
man.
like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
so, we shot it. I will say, so Pro, I got a ridiculously sick looking music video for a really good price, and the process was relatively easy. Con, I love getting together with my homies for a music video and rocking out together as a band, and that feels like we left that shoot with a ton of green screen footage, and it was terrifying for me because I was like, I have no idea how this is going to look. It could come out like shit. I don't know. Thankfully, my expectations were pretty low, and they were greatly exceeded. Huge dopamine rush. Felt great.
Yep.
But Dustin did. So what I did is I sent him a bunch of references that Arsh and I found on Pinterest. And we just made a mood board for something that was very Blade Runner, Aztecs, like kind of just post-apocalyptic Fallout type vibes. And he went in and he made a bunch of custom scenes in Unreal Engine and put those all together. And then I did a little bit, like I feel bad even like taking any credit for this whatsoever, but I did the kind of like transitions, like the quick switches, the flashes, like things like that, and just kind of added a little bit of post-production. But Dustin is the one that spent the hundreds of hours in Unreal Engine just dialing it in. So
yeah, it's awesome that you can do that these days. You can just make it look like $1 million and it's much cheaper and much easier, but you can just kind of imagine something, give it to somebody who can turn it into a real environment, a quote unquote real 3D environment, and just plop you into it just like that. Like, I would not have guessed that you did not all perform together.
Yeah, and I think I kind of missed that. Like, I like doing that for videos. So we all shot separately, and then you put it all together, and you know, it looks sick. But
I've experienced ups and downs of that, because if you're shooting on a budget, you know, you don't have a ton of time. Sometimes it's hard to shoot all together because having everybody look cool at the same time is much more rare than if you're focusing on one person at a time. So if it looks like you were all playing together, that's cool too. Although if you walk too far in one direction, you'll walk through your
That's true. That's majorly me just like nitpicking. Overall, like really good experiences. My first time, I would do a video like that again. Probably won't do 2 in a row just to keep things fresh. And probably for the next one, I think we're going to try a little bit something different. We're going to shoot a very like basic performance video. Probably not going to break the bank on that. And then we're going to probably save a lot of our reserves for how we choose to market it. And I'm just going to see how that goes. Because it seems like really, really epic high production music videos for the average artist right now it's not really the meta. I feel a lot of people like the more organic content, so to speak, right now. So
I recently, do you know the videographer Jacob Owens?
Of course. Yeah, big Jacob Owens fan.
He recently posted on Instagram a whole thing about that.
I did see
this.
He
was like, smaller, he said unless you're an A-list artist, you should not be making like cinematic music videos. You should focus everything on the short form content. And I was like, okay. mainly because I just love music videos, and if I want to know more about a band, that's where I go. But it's not necessarily. It's probably good advice because where are bands blowing up? TikTok, Reels, short form stuff. More personal and also like you're saying, and for music videos, like these kind of more like real ones. Like
you got to market it the way that it's in right now, and like as this is just the reality. Like you can have an amazing, sick product, but if nobody's seeing it because it's not being marketed properly, you're probably gonna have a bad time. And this is speaking from experience, and I've had to learn this lesson repeatedly. Jacob Owens has no incentivization to share that advice.
Yeah.
Like that's not necessarily like the best of news for the videography industry. Had a dinner with my friend Lucas last night, and he actually said the same thing that Jacob Owens did. And he's like, that's just how I'm like advising people to go now. And he's like, video studios can do that for people. Maybe we shoot a less expensive music video, but we put the rest of your budget into like making different kinds of assets that are actually going to serve you much better right now until that meta changes. But
yeah, and I think it sucks for me. Like I hate it only because growing up, like touring and music videos were like, to me, the sort of marker of a band that was successful, right? That was the goal. That's the thing.
I know. It's always been my favorite stuff too.
And now the whole thing is completely flipped. It's like, oh God, like, wait, no, they moved the target.
Just wait till we're all living in the metaverse, Trey. We could be right now.
We might be there right now. We wouldn't even know. Oh God, this is an episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh boy. But regardless, like the marketing thing is incredibly important because there is just so much noise to cut through. Who's
going
gonna get seen?
Like trying to drink out of a fire hose, man.
Yeah.
There's way too much shit.
Oh jeez. There's only so many rabbit holes you can go down, and you want to be somebody's rabbit hole that they're going down.
Let me be your rabbit hole.
Let me be your rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Let me be your rabbit hole. New single, Cole and Trey dropping.
You can have that one.
Baby. Like rabbits, yeah. No, we're not doing that. So yeah, I guess
I'm just reading some of the chat.
Oh yeah. I've been like kind of keeping an eye on it, but not really. But
this is great.
They're paying attention. Is the important
Thanks
thing.
for hanging out, guys.
Hi everybody.
What's up, BR? We got some of my Twitch peeps in here too.
Oh, okay. What up? Hello. So I guess then my question, also inspired by us talking to the chat, what's your best advice for people who want to be writing songs now? Like, should they be focusing on writing songs for other people? Should they be writing for themselves as an artist? How do you break in to any of that?
My first kind of, to answer your question with a question, is it depends. Like I would say, like if someone came to me one-on-one and asked that, I'd ask like, what's your goals? Like, what are your goals? What would you like to get out of this? And then my first impulse piece, my hot take advice is do what is the most fun for you and the most enjoyable. And like I've talked about my genre ADD to death on this podcast, but that's what's been enjoyable to me. That's why I'm still making music like 13, 14 years into this and still having a good time doing it. Is like, it's hard to compete with someone who's having a good time. They don't burn out that bad. Yeah, they're gonna have way more steam.
That's a clip. This is gonna be a clip.
Good. Yeah, it's hard to compete with that. So that's my best advice. I would say do what interests you. That's the same advice. Even when, to dilute that question a little more, like someone that's like learning the guitar, they're like, I'm having a hard time sticking with it because it's hard. And I'm like, cool. What bands do you like? What music are you into? Like, are these songs that you would want to learn? Learn stuff that you like. You're way more likely to stick with it. And the seeing progress is so addicting, man. Like that's why YouTube was so addicting to me. It felt like this gamified experience. Going to the gym and seeing progress is addicting. Like it's just like in any way. That's also why video games are so addicting. It's the same psychological thing. So yeah, that's my best advice. Do stuff you like. It's gonna be way better.
Bangarang.
Bangarang.
Oh.
Trey's running the board himself. He's switching all these camera angles like on the fly.
Yeah, my
oiled machine.
You know, my guy who's usually here to do it never existed. So, and he didn't show up today, so he's fired. Damn, that was such a good thing for you to say to me because just in general.
I got you.
But that you hit me you cut me deep in a really good way. I love that.
How do you personally relate to that?
Hard to compete with someone who's having a good time. Well, lately I've been a little bit bummed about the performance of a lot of things that I've done. I'd put out a video about the concept of failure, and the takeaway at the end was kind of the same thing, which was that you can always come back to the process because the process is incredibly enjoyable and nobody can ever take that away from you.
And that's what you spend the most time doing.
Exactly. So, but I don't know. I guess hearing the same general idea from somebody else, because you'll have longevity if you're enjoying it. And longevity is what's going to bring you the most success in the end, because people who do it but don't love it as much as you, don't care as much, they'll eventually stop and you'll still be there. You're building something and it takes a lot of time to do that. So if you're enjoying it, you will have success because you'll stick around, you'll do it for longer, you'll do it. It'll be
as long as you
great.
Don't suck.
As long as you don't suck.
That's a prerequisite. I'm just joking about
Shit.
that. Dude, it's super true though, and I think that's why it can be a bit of a dangerous situation when people go super viral on something really early on, and you don't know how to kind of acclimate to that, or you don't know how to follow it up. That can also be a super daunting thing. Bands that have their first record absolutely smash. That's notorious for the sophomore album being a very it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you going to top that? It's kind of like the go-to sentence about it.
Yeah, because if you always have to top yourself, then and if you started with something big,
like your first album being Hybrid Theory,
or what's the first Evanescence one? Fallen. Yeah, like. Where are you going to go from there?
Dude, David Hodges, the guy that wrote that record with them, lives in Nashville, and he is like absolutely killing it as a writer. So that album came out 2 decades ago, like 20-ish years ago, and he's writing with people like Ed Sheeran now and like doing big stuff. And it's cool. It's cool to see like that album was such a huge commercial success, and he has figured out ways to just continue to add value and be a very desirable person to work with.
So, speaking of working with people, I don't get a lot of people in here who are going about it the way that you do, working with different producers, like going in and doing writing sessions, which is how like a huge section of the music industry operates, is like doing these collabs, sort of like going in, doing a day with this guy, with this person, left and right. So I want to ask you about like how to operate in that kind of situation. Like, is there any kind of advice you have for people once they get in there and they've got somebody like, yeah, man, come by, we'll throw some ideas together. That's a little intimidating to me personally. How, like, let's say you're gonna tell me like how to not blow it.
What freaks you out about it?
The idea that I will not be able to generate anything that is cool enough for somebody to want to keep working with me, I guess, and that I will say or do something dumb.
Okay.
It's not going to stop me from doing it if I get the chance.
Good. Let's get you out of your head.
No question. I'm doing it. I'm just, let's, keep me from doing that.
Cool. So if I was going to give you any advice because I actually have been in the same boat in the past, and that's why I asked you. I was like, what freaks you out about it?
Yeah.
Kind of similar to me. I was always afraid of like overpromise, underdeliver, or like have maybe my manager like talks me up and like gets like a friend favor and gets me in like a good room with someone or whatever, and I show up and I just like don't pull my weight. What has really helped me with that is we've been intentionally booking me a lot of smaller sessions where I go in and maybe there's an idea, maybe there's not, but we always figure it out and we always get something done, and that gives me more confidence that when the bigger things do come along, I know that I know what I'm doing to a certain degree. I'm not by any means even close to the top of like what some of these people operate at, but I have enough confidence knowing that I can contribute ideas that people like, or I can contribute ideas that get used in one capacity or another. I'm getting better and better at keeping the momentum of a writing session going forward, keeping people engaged, getting better at like providing constructive feedback, things like that. So it's just one of those things that the more you do it and the more you have experiences with it, like I've had writes that like didn't go well, but not in necessarily a bad way, in the way that like maybe there was nothing that came out of it or something like that. Yeah. Like I don't know, but you always, every single time you do it, as you keep doing it, you keep learning new stuff. And it's like the same thing as that YouTube model. Like make a video, put it out, and then keep going forward.
So it's kind of like in 40-Year-Old Virgin where he's like, no, man, you got to knock out like 40, 50 hood rats before you go and do the real thing.
Yeah, dude. I like literally that. Those are rookie numbers.
Those are rookie numbers. That's good because I've written a lot of songs by myself. I know that I can do it. I know that they're good. There's no reason for me to believe that it wouldn't be. I've written with other people before.
Hey, you know what you're doing,
but
man.
I guess I think of like, a producer's like somebody who's killing it, crushing it. And then I'm like, hey. That's cool though. That's good. That's really good to hear. I mean, I think I'm asking about it because I really want to do it. I want to try that out, that way of writing and going about it. Like collaborative writing for me has always been hard because I'm so used to just sitting here by myself, control freak, doing everything I want. But that's not how you grow.
It's there. You can always learn something from everyone, and it's good to be able to work alone. Like, dude, you have all the skills to do that. If you need to get the job done, you know how to do everything, and then bring other people in because you always learn something, and maybe you'd make something you never would have thought of. And that's like a good way that I always think about it. Like I said earlier, I feel like I'm going to school when I bring other people in.
Yeah.
Shit.
Do you have some people on your dream list that you'd like to work with that you think might be within your grasp?
Definitely.
Sooner rather than later?
There's one that's super, super close, so I don't want to say it because I'll absolutely jinx it. Okay. But if it does happen, you'll be the first to know. There's a friend of mine, and he's a really well-established producer in town. His name's Andrew Goldstein, and he does a lot of stuff in like, I think anything from like pop punk, rock. Like his credits are incredible, and I would love to work on a song with him. He's done some of my favorite he did a lot of stuff for bands that were on Fueled by Ramen years ago. Okay. So he was one of their go-to producers. And he's done stuff that's very successful in the pop space. And he's done a couple records for like Lady Gaga and stuff. And so this guy he's a weapon. Yeah. And I would love to, even if I wasn't necessarily working, just watch someone like that for a day, or like, come and just shadow them for a couple days and just see how they approach stuff. You would learn a ton. That would be awesome. There's another guy in town, Kevin Thrasher, who does a lot of the like new wave pop punk stuff. He did a bunch of stuff on like the new Avril Lavigne record with John Feldman as well. And that would be really cool. Just, people that seem like they're awesome to hang out with and make awesome shit. And that seems like a recipe for success. So
people who are enjoying themselves,
people who are having fun. It's hard to compete with that.
That's gonna be on a loop in my brain for the rest of the day.
I'm glad.
Well, I think that's a pretty good place to call it for the day. I've gotten a lot out of this. Honestly, dude, like, I mean, I say this at basically the end of every episode, but I do these for myself, because all I want to do is like learn how to get better at it and get everyone's different approach and mindset about how they go about it. And I always get so much out of these. So I really appreciate you coming by and taking the time. It's also nice to see you. I haven't seen you
Thanks
in forever.
for having me, man.
Hell yeah. So why don't you go ahead and tell this is your pitch moment.
Is it this camera?
Yeah. Tell the folks at home, whatever you like. What's coming up for you? Where they can find you, all that stuff.
All right. I'm Cole Rowland. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Go watch my new single, Echo, or go stream it. It's on all the platforms. Add it to your playlist if you like it. And I think that's kind of the main thing. Follow me because I got a new single called Disappear coming out shortly that I think you guys will love. And takeaway advice from this is get in the habit of doing whatever it is you want to do and doing it consistently and putting in that work, and you will get better. I promise.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah.
All right, let me just do this one.
Wait, why are they calling me Big Truck? I don't get it.
Oh, it might be this. You might not have this in Canada. Rolling coal.
Oh.
Do you know what that is? Yeah.
Yeah, my name's on your hat.
Oh my God, is it really? Oh yeah.
It's spelled wrong.
Bean. That's funny. That's my brand. All right. Cool, dude. Well, thank you so much to Cole for coming out today. Thank you all for listening and watching. If you weren't already aware, there is a still pretty new How Songs Are Made podcast YouTube channel. They changed up the way that YouTube handles work and stuff. So now it's like youtube.com/@HowSongsAreMadePodcast. If you're listening to this in the audio form, which you can do on all streaming platforms, everywhere that podcasts are found, or at HowSongsAreMadePodcast.com. And if you haven't subscribed to the new YouTube channel, and you want to see these streams, they're streamed live, and then they exist as edited final videos on the channel as well, then you're definitely going to want to do that, because all of these streams henceforth will be there and not on the Trey Xavier channel. So that's the spot. That's the hot spot to be for all of this. I love doing these. This is now, I think, so this is season 2, episode 5, but I think that puts us at over 35 or 36 episodes that you can find to listen to. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is brought to you today by my songwriting course, which is called Complete Rock and Metal Songwriting. If you want to improve at songwriting, it's 15 hours of everything that I know about writing songs. You can find more about that at the link in the description or at howsongsaremade.com. And y'all have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you on the Felipe a Floppy. Bye.